Welcome to Sib Spot. Today's Reddit stories are from IDon'tWorkHereLady. I like these stories because sometimes you get ones that are crazy and sometimes you get wholesome ones as well. Today's episode actually features some of both. Story 1 is by Right Sister 3. Just delivering food. My dad just retired and we had his retirement party last night. A lot of his former and current employees as well as family were there. A few people got up and gave a speech, and though I never worked for him, I told this story from about 12 years ago. A few people later told me I should share it here, so I'm brand new to Reddit, so sorry if I make mistakes or don't follow protocols. About 12 years ago when I was in high school, I had the day off, so my dad invited me to go out to lunch with him the next day. Mom wouldn't be able to get off, so it was just going to be a daddy-daughter lunch date. The day of, just when I was going to get in the shower and get ready for the day, my dad calls and says something big has come up at work and we're going to have to postpone our lunch. But because this was a surprise event for him, he didn't bring anything to eat, so he asked me to stop by a Subway and grab him a sandwich and some chips and bring it to him at work. I was bummed, but I said okay. Instead of the nice sweater-skirt combo I had planned on wearing, I put on a pair of old ripped jeans and a black t-shirt with a giant Nike logo across the front, as well as putting my hair into a messy ponytail under a black and red baseball cap. I picked up his food and drove off to his work. He owned/operated, it sounded weird to put those into past tense after all these years, a hardware garden store. I got there, went to his office and saw him behind the glass on his phone with lots of papers around him, and he looked frantic on the call, shuffling through the papers. I knocked on the glass, held up the bag with his food, and when he saw me, he gave me the thumbs up and then jerked his thumb over his shoulder towards the employee break room, so I went there to put his food in the fridge. When I got there were 2 warehouse employees there, I'll call them Tom and Dan, and they told me that their biggest supplier had suddenly and unexpectedly gone out of business that day. And Dad was trying to see if he could snag any leftover inventory they might still have, as well as looking for a new supplier. We also made some idle chit-chat before I put Dad's lunch in the fridge and walked out the door. This is when the main villain of the story stepped in. I'll call her Karen, as that seems to be the norm around here. I got maybe 2 steps out the door when she grabbed my attention and asked where the doohickey was. At the time, I had no idea what a doohickey was, so I politely said, "I'm sorry, I don't work here, I'm just delivering food." She practically screamed, "Why won't you help me?" Then noticed the sign over the door that said employees only and said, "What were you doing in there if you don't work here?" Thinking she caught me or something. I said, "This is where I was told to bring the food, but I really don't work here, and I don't even know what a doohickey is." She then started berating me for not knowing what a doohickey was. When I thought of Tom and Dan behind the door, surely one of them would know what a doohickey was and where to find it. But when I turned to go in and get one of them, she loudly shrieked, "Why won't you help me? Don't bother your co-workers when you're right here." I don't know if it was because he was done on the phone or just alerted by Karen's loud shrieking, but my dad came out of his office and asked what was going on. Karen quickly spoke up and said, "I'm trying to find a doohickey and she won't help me." Dad looked at her and said, "I'm sorry, but she's just delivering lunch. She probably doesn't even know what a doohickey is." I then told my dad that I tried to get Tom or Dan to come out and help her as I had no idea what a doohickey was. Karen's response was to tell Dad, "You should train the workers better." Dad's response was to say, "Again, she doesn't work here, and she claimed she tried to get you help. Did she or did she not?" Karen then said, "Why is everyone trying to cover for her?" As far as I know, she had only talked to me and Dad, so I don't know who, quote, everyone was. Dad then told her, "Doohickeys are on aisle 3, or maybe you can find one at Home Depot." He later told me that that's the first time he's ever suggested to a customer that they can go elsewhere, even if he had the item in stock or could get it there in a reasonable amount of time. He then told me what a doohickey was. Karen then stormed off to aisle 3, and later that evening, Dad told me she had bought a doohickey. Years later, when I was married to my husband and got a house, Dad gave us a doohickey as a housewarming gift. I laughed hysterically when I unwrapped it and saw what it was. It was a light sensor for outdoor lights, so they automatically come on when it's dark enough. My husband thought there was something wrong with me because I was laughing like crazy and could barely get out. Did you find it on aisle 3, or did you have to go to Home Depot? So Dad is officially retired now. My older brother is taking over, and I know where to get a doohickey should I ever need one. So I wasn't sure at the end of this if doohickey was an actual term for something. I always thought it was just something you couldn't recall, so you use the word doohickey. Like it's like saying, do you know where that thing is? Oh, you know the thing. The thing, I can't remember. It's a doohickey. It does stuff. So I actually had to Google it to make sure that doohickey isn't specifically something, and it's not. It's something that you can't recall. It's something you can't remember the name of. So, I'm guessing when he gave his daughter this gift, it had a word on it called doohickey or something. He must have relabeled it. Our next story is by EGB233. Screamed at for closing 30 minutes before she arrived. My friend owns a greenhouse plant nursery and allowed me to take maternity pictures there after the store closed at 2 p.m. It was just my photographer and I. Around 2:30, we were doing our thing towards the front of the outdoor nursery area near the parking lot, but we're inside the locked gate or fence. This older woman comes up, sees us through the fence, and asks if we're open. I explained to her that no, the store closed at 2 on Saturdays, but we'll be back open from 8:30 to 5 on Monday. Are you serious? I just drove all the way here. Sorry, ma'am. This is absolutely disappointing. I'm not sure what you expect me to do. I don't even work here, and the store's operating hours have been the same for 20+ years. She stormed off, and 2 seconds later we heard her tires screech as she floored it out of the parking lot. I told my friend, and she said they could stay open till 11 p.m. and people would still get mad that they weren't open until midnight. That's how it is in retail jobs anywhere. People are never happy if they get inconvenienced by something, even if they caused the inconvenience to begin with, like this woman. How much do you guys want to bet that she said she drove all the way here, yet she lives like 5 minutes away? Our next story is by Cypher282. Wait, I'm just a student. My high school had red uniforms and lanyards because of a recent mass shooting, and I like to clip my keys to my lanyard, so I never took it off. Well, guess who else had red polos, khaki pants, and black shoes? Target employees. So after school, I'm browsing Target when an elderly woman comes to me and says, "Hey, can you help me find this?" I noticed her service dog, her thick glasses, and realized she's legally blind. I assume she can, at best, see my blurry form, and just by the color she must think I work here. Oh no. I was too embarrassed to say no, so I looked at the item and made a mental list of where I might find it. Home? Kitchen? No, this was specifically an office item. I gave her my best customer service voice and said, "Of course, I'll help you." And so I did. I even called an employee to explain she might need assistance upon checkout. The lady then said she'd like to speak to a manager. Uh-oh, did I do something wrong? The employee was equally dumbfounded. The service dog, a beautiful chocolate lab aptly named Brownie, did not help outside of a big yawn. "I am the assistant manager. Is there anything you'd like for me to know?" She then heaped the praise on me, saying how kind I was and how great the manager is to hire me and whatnot. I accepted the praise, a little embarrassed. "Ma'am, I actually don't work here. I'm a high schooler." I don't know who was more embarrassed, but it was a good time overall. I helped someone in need, pet a dog, and had a nice story to tell. The store manager thanked me with a gift card. See? One of the wholesome stories in here. These little gems of people just being good people. I may not work here, but here, let me help you. Our last story today is by Jess is Cringe. Poor Jess. What did she do? Wholesome lady wants to let my manager know I helped her at Walmart, but I work for the county. I've been sitting on this one for a few months because I didn't think it would fit here since it wasn't about a Karen, but after listening to some stories on YouTube, I think it works. I was at the Walmart, getting my lunch and some sparkling water for work, but before heading to the frozen foods, I swung by the pharmacy section to get some ibuprofen. I'm 6'4" and was wearing my work uniform, navy blue pants and a hoodie of the same color with orange square bearing the company's name. No vest or name tag, so it's unlikely one would assume I work at Walmart. After getting the pills, an employee approached me and asked for some help. I didn't want to be rude, so I followed her to the aisle where they keep the soap, and she asked me to grab one from the top shelf. And that was that, right? Well, I heard a rickety cart pull up as an older woman approached with an "excuse me." I quickly turned around, expecting to have someone clear their throat or snap their fingers at me like I've been conditioned to think. But I was actually greeted by a very kind smile as the lady asked, "Would you be a dear and grab that for me?" Because she asked nicely, I did. The item wasn't big or heavy, just high up. I think it was a shampoo or something. I don't work in customer service, but something clicked in me, and I said, "Is there anything else I can help you with?" The lady smiled and asked if I knew where the water bottles were. Funny enough, the sparkling water was right next to the normal water, so I said, "Right this way," and led her from the pharmacy section to the drinks. As we arrived, I asked which brand she preferred, put it on the bottom rack of the cart, and as I was headed to grab my sparkling water, she said, "You're so kind. Can I get your name?" I gave her my name, and she said, "I'm going to call the store and tell them how much of a help you were." I laughed a bit and told her not to worry about it, and when she insisted, I pointed to the orange logo on my hoodie and said, "I actually work for this company. We do contracts for the county." We both had a laugh, and as we parted ways, I rewarded myself by getting my favorite brand instead of the cheaper option. Let this be a lesson to all entitled jerks. If you're polite and not inconveniencing others, they might help you. It worked for this wholesome lady, it can work for you too. This is the second wholesome story of the day. Just a nice reminder that not all Reddit stories are doom and gloom and Karens being Karen. Our stories for today have come to a close. Until we meet again, have a wholesome day.